Welcome to Growing Home, the podcast that helps you take care of the place that means the most to you, your home. I'm your host, Terry Therian, alongside your co-host, Len Giddix. Well, Len, welcome back into the Growing Home studio here.
It's good to be here again, Terry.
Yeah, beautiful day. So we just wrapped up our conversation with Harlan Hyde from Aspen Song Wild Bird Food with our episode, The Truth About Feeding the Birds. What was it that Harlan shared with us that, as a longtime birder, surprised you?
I have to admit that there's a couple things that really surprised me. I have to admit that I've always been suspicious of bird seed mixes. I mean, are they the concoction of, what's available, what's more expensive, what's cheaper? What I learned from Harlan is that quality bird seed, songbird, wild bird mixes are really geared to what the birds need. And also the environment that we're feeding them in. For instance, if it's like a buffet. The mix is a buffet, and different birds will go for different seeds depending on their health needs. Do they need more protein? Do they need more carbohydrate? That's what the mix is all about, and there's a balance there that's actually calculated. It's not a farce with quality seed anyway. Like Aspen Song.
And there's multiple buffet sets, so not each buffet is right for every bird. So to attract multiple birds, multiple feeders with different buffets at each, and in the way we feed them and the type of feeder he talks about.
Exactly. If you're in an apartment and you have a feeder on your balcony, there's a feed for that. If you want to attract a certain type of bird, like a finch or something, there's a feeder and a seed for that. So it's really a very human hobby that has gone to the birds, so to speak, and you can really develop the birds that you attract by the seed and the feeders that you put out there.
Yeah, and I really think the coolest part is when Harlan and his company Aspen Song think about feeding the birds. It's the quality of it and the success of it all come from understanding what's nutritionally correct for the birds.
Yep.
And that quality drives your, how many birds are coming into your yard, because you have to put out there what they need to survive, because their pursuit is survival.
Right.
So.
And healthy birds are looking for healthy, whole, colorful, fresh seed. You just can't put junk out there.
Yeah. And then on top of it, he also shares with us, as we're enjoying the birds, how do we deter the squirrels?
Maybe we better listen to the podcast and find out about that.
Yeah, we'll listen to Harlan's tips about deterring the squirrels and the nutrition for wild birds. So stay tuned for our episode with Harlan Hyde. So, Harlan, welcome to the Growing Home podcast.
Thank you.
Let's start first with Aspen Song. Can you tell us a little bit about, the Aspen Song company?
Sure. Aspen Song was developed in 2008. The parent company is Cooperative Feed Dealers, which is a distributor of lawn and garden and farm products and pet. And we were selling another brand of bird food, and they unfortunately were heading out of business. And so we looked at bringing on some other bird food lines, and we really had sort of three things in mind that we wanted to offer our dealers, and that was a quality product with a competitive price and having some good support for them. And we thought we could do that by really creating a line that was built on the foundation of being ornithologically correct. So our focus was going to be the end consumer, the birds, and not necessarily the consumer that live in the household.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, especially the fact that, the parent company of Aspen Song is, a lot of dealers who focus on quality and finding, whether it's livestock feed or bird food, nutritionally correct food. And that's back to Mackey's roots of, my grandfather working with poultry farms and dairy farms on how do we use nutrition to have healthier animals and more productive animals. In this case, it's attracting more wild birds because we're feeding them the right way.
Sure, and I certainly had known Mackey's for a number of years before I took this position, and so, when Aspen Song came around, it was one of the first stores that I came to because it seemed like just such a great fit. The philosophies of both companies just really seemed to align with the focus on quality.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and our customers love the Aspen Song products. So now we're at the point when wild bird excitement picks up again. We're heading into the winter. We've had a cold November. We have a cold December. We've already had a solid snowfall and even a dusting as we were coming in this morning. So as we come into the winter season, what are some birds that we should be on the lookout for? Where are we in the seasonality of watching the wild birds?
Well, Terry, I think this was probably the best year that we could have done this podcast. As you said, this time of year is usually a pretty exciting time if you're a birder. The weather turns colder. The birds are willing to come to the feeders more and get a little bit extra calories. But this year is sort of a little bit more exciting for us in that every couple of years the boreal forests of Canada just don't produce the amount of seeds as needed, and so we get a lot of these migratory birds that'll come down. And this year, it really is going to be one of those years where we have a lot of those birds coming down. So we're going to see birds that we've normally seen in the past here. Then we're going to see blue jays specifically will be in a greater numbers. The common redpoll, pine siskins, some of the evening grosbeaks, all of these birds that traditionally we don't see should be here in great numbers this year. For all of your customers that are birders that are listening to this podcast, I would invite them to take a look at a website that a gentleman named Ron Pittaway, so it's Pittawa, puts out. He's a naturalist up in Canada, and he puts out a report of the birds that'll be coming down this way, and it really looks very promising this year. A lot of things, a lot of the crops up there sort of grow in cycles, and this tends to be one of those down cycle years, and so we really have a good opportunity to see some birds that we don't normally see.
Great. And do you have the address to his website? Is it?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but if you Google,
we'll put it in the show notes at the end.
Google the Pittaway Finch report, it pops right up.
Got it. Yeah. Awesome. And we'll put a link to in the notes as well.
Great.
On the website. So cool. So he has a finch report. So he's telling us what finches are coming down from the Canadian forest.
It's called the Finch Report. It's much wider than just a finch report. Specifically, in there if you read the report, you'll see about the blue grosbeak and pine grosbeaks that are also going to maybe make their way down here. I talked about some of the finches and the blue jays. Blue jays this year we should see in much greater numbers, which is always an interesting one because as I do seminars, when I flip to the screen page with the Blue Jays, I look up and half the crowd gets excited about the Blue Jay and the other half of the crowd just isn't so excited about the Blue Jay. It seems to be a pretty divisive bird. You either love it or you hate them. But we'll have more of them this year.
Yeah, they're actually the reason why I had to take down the window feeder because I'd had it right over the sink, and then we had too many crash landings into the window. So we had to move the feeder off the window.
Yeah, it seems the Blue Jays don't know when to stop.
Yeah, no, they're full force, full throttle.
Yeah. So all of these birds, they call them, they're part of what we call the eruptive species of birds, and so that's really the group of birds that are really most exciting this year. The cardinals, the chickadees, and tufted titmouse, we get to see them every year. Not that they're not beautiful, but we sort of take them for granted because we see them every year. But the opportunity to see these eruptive species is really what's going to make this winter the most fun for birding.
Awesome. And then, being in southern New England, is there anything unique about where we are related to the rest of the country and our unique ability to observe particular birds at home?
So I think one of the advantages we have is living close to the shore. We do get some opportunity to be in some migratory patterns, and so we get to maybe see some different birds that maybe other parts of the territory that I work in of upstate New York or Pennsylvania may not see. but they have some different birds that they get to see that we don't. So I guess it's a wash in the end, but certainly being close to the shore and having that opportunity to be on that migratory pattern really lends itself to some really fun birding.
Awesome. And especially this year with, what we're getting from the Finch Report, and I'm excited to check that out. So as we, even, just in the Aspen line, sometimes it's confusion, and we have these 40-pound bags, there's the Aspen Ultimate, the Premium, the Select, the Choice. Can you kind of help us understand of, like, now we're looking at these 4 bags, like, really what are we looking for in these mixes, and what can we look at to figure out which one will be best for us, or what we're investing if we're getting one of the more premium feeds?
Sure. So as we look at the Aspen line, there's 10 mixes or blends, if you will, and 5 of them are general purpose mixes, and the design of them is to attract a wide variety of birds. As we set out to create this line, we took a look at, and we sort of put these birds into boxes, if you will, and we said there's 5 subsets of seed-eating birds that'll kind of come to the backyard. Those are the large-billed birds, such as cardinals, the small perching birds, such as the finches, the arboreal birds, like your black-capped chickadee and tufted titmouse, your woodpeckers, and then your grassland species of birds, like your dark-eyed juncos and your native sparrows. For each one of those 5 subsets, we created a mix specifically for them, and the idea was to segregate out that specific subset. And so if you can pair that with an appropriate feeder, you'll have the best chance of attracting just that subset and maybe discouraging some of the others. The other 5 mixes are really designed to do just the opposite, to attract the widest variety of birds you can. So we have one called Just Desserts, which is a shell-free mix. We have one called Ultimate Blend, which is a corn-free mix, and that's for those people that prefer no corn in their mix. I believe that there's a lot of energy value to corn, and I believe that corn is vital in a mix, but we do have some people who prefer no corn, so we have a corn-free mix for them. Then we have a premium blend, which is our best mix. Has 12 different ingredients to attract the widest variety of birds. And then our better mix is called Choice Blend. And then we also have a good mix called Select Blend.
Back to Just Desserts, you called it a shell-less mix. Otherwise, we can call it like a no-waste mix, right?
It certainly is a no-waste mix. And, it's ideal for people who have townhouses, condominiums, they want to feed on porches or patios or decks. If you have ever tried to pick out the shell of black oil out of that 5 1/4 inch decking board, it is really a pain to do. And so a shellless mix would be ideal. And our Just Desserts comes in our chocolate colored bag, and so it really is ideal for those situations, but also it's ideal for our gardeners. And so we have a lot of our birders are also gardeners. As you think about trying to add some height and dimension to a perennial garden, maybe your largest perennial is 30 to 36 inches, somewhere in there, and you want to add that height and dimension, you can do that with a nice shepherd's hook, a nice feeder, and then you go to add some seed. But the problem with adding certain seeds is you'll get the waste on the ground that you have to clean up in your beautiful perennial garden, or stuff will germinate. When using a product such as the Just Desserts, that doesn't happen because there's no germination and no waste. And so there's no cleaning and no worrying about extra weeding.
Yeah, the weeding part I like.
Yeah, that's good. Or we always get the massive sunflower that shoots up in the summer. At home.
So Harlan, from what I'm getting is that not all birdseed brands are created equal. I mean, you specified that you're after the nutrition of the birds. That's your primary goal. So cheaper is not necessarily a bargain. That's what I'm getting from it.
Yeah, so I think that it's important to realize when you're at a place and ready to make a purchase on birdseed that you sort of know what you're looking for, and or know what to not look for. And so one of the things that we focused on is there's no soft-shelled cereal grains in any of our mixes. So if you see something with oats, groats, barley, things like that, those are red millet. Those are generally some filler seeds, and so those will attract some of the undesirable birds that you may not want to see, like starlings and grackles, to your feeder. the other